My mom and sister lied about my dad. Now they want a share of his inheritance. Should I forgive them? Hey guys, I'm 27. My parents divorced when I was 6. It was a nasty affair and ruined my family in many ways. My mom and sister, who at the time was 14, said that I had behaved inappropriately with my sister. My dad always maintained that he was innocent, but the court thought differently. He went bankrupt, lost access to his family and close friends, and couldn't get a job for the longest time. He was very educated and had a master's in accounting. Eventually, he moved to the middle of nowhere and got a job working remotely for my uncle. He built a decent life and bought a property with his brother as co-signer. I never had contact with him, and I grew with a few different stepdad and all that. He had cancer and passed 4 years ago. Fast forward to 5 months ago. I got a random call from my uncle and he asked to meet. He gave me 5 letters which were from my dad. Some were birthday letter for my 18th, graduation letter for high school and college, and one detailing why he wasn't in my life and how sorry he was and how he wished he'd fought harder to be in my life. He states that he's innocent and he's only guilty was being coward and cheating on his family. Anyway, my uncle was to give me those things and some other things. He's dying of cancer as well and doesn't have long left. Anyway, my dad had left me everything, including his house, which my uncles had rented these past few years, and now my uncle is passing his house to me, and a very large sum of money from the sale of his business and some of his ownership shares. I confronted my mom and sister about my dad, and they both broke down crying and admitted they wronged my dad and wished they made amends before he died. My mom is claiming mental stress and other issues. I told her she took my ability to have a father in my life from me out of spite, and I can't forgive her for that. Now that they've both learned that my and dad uncle is leave me everything. They are trying to get back in my life, and my mom and sister are claiming that she has a claim to whatever my uncle and dad left me.
They destroyed his father's life. Now they want his inheritance. Should they get anything? A complex and sensitive case. As a judge, I must consider the facts and emotions presented. From what I've gathered, you've been married to your husband for 8 years, and his daughter from his previous marriage has been a part of your life since she was 9 years old. You've always accepted her as your stepdaughter and have been a loving and supportive presence in her life. However, it appears that there may be a misunderstanding or a lack of communication between you and your stepdaughter. She expressed her feelings to her aunt, stating that she doesn't love you and only tolerates your marriage to her father because he's happy. This revelation was hurtful and made you cry. Your sister-in-law, Seil, reacted in a way that I find concerning. Instead of offering empathy or support, she told you that crying wouldn't solve anything and that you shouldn't make it about you. She also implied that you were somehow responsible for your stepdaughter's feelings and that you shouldn't have made your husband aware of this situation. As a judge, I must consider the following questions. 1. Did you overreact or make a mountain out of a molehill by crying about this situation? 2. Was your Sil's response reasonable and supportive, or did she add fuel to the fire? 3. Should you have discussed this situation with your husband, or was it best left unspoken? Based on the facts, I find that your Sil's response was not only unhelpful, but also hurtful. She implied that you were responsible for your stepdaughter's feelings and that you should have kept this situation private. This is not a healthy or supportive dynamic, and I would caution your Sil against making similar comments in the future. As for you, I understand that hearing your stepdaughter's words was hurtful and made you cry. However, I don't think you overreacted or made a mountain out of a molehill. It's natural to feel sad and hurt in this situation, and it's not something that can be easily brushed off. In terms of whether you should have discussed this situation with your husband, I think it's a complex issue. On one hand, it's possible that discussing this situation could have led to a deeper understanding and empathy between you and your stepdaughter. On the other hand, it's also possible that discussing this situation could have led to conflict and hurt feelings. Ultimately, I think it's best to approach this situation with empathy and understanding. I would advise you to have an open and honest conversation with your husband about this situation, but also to be mindful of your stepdaughter's feelings and boundaries. As for your Sil's comments, I would caution her against making similar comments in the future. As a supportive family member, her role is to offer empathy and support, not to add fuel to the fire or imply that someone is responsible for someone else's feelings. Judgment: your Sil's response was not reasonable or supportive, and I would caution her against making similar comments in the future. You, on the other hand, were understandably hurt and sad by your stepdaughter's words, and I think it's best to approach this situation with empathy and understanding.